I see him in the green room. Let's bring on the man who goes by Hilarious on his social media.
How's
Texas
it going?
freshman Heid Manning, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just got out of class, doing some homework.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So you're a freshman at Texas, and I don't know how many Texas fans knew about you. Maybe it's because you were going through pledgeship, but now you're an active, you're doing your thing.
Sure.
And we had a chance to talk a little bit, but talk about why you chose Texas, Heid.
Well, yes, sir. Thank you all again for having me on. Yeah, I chose Texas for a number of reasons. I mean, obviously, my brother was a little bit of the reason. Me and him have always been pretty close. It's always been fun growing up with him. But I really chose Texas just because of Austin. It's so great, and like I said in the interview, it's kind of has pockets of different neighborhoods. You kind of have the campus, like the small town college feel, but you're also in the middle of a big city, and it has the lake, and there's just so much to offer. Good sports, great education. There's nothing better.
Yeah, hi. Once again, appreciate you jumping on, Chip and Zay. But you could have went anywhere. A lot of people in your shoes might have looked at the situation like, okay, Arch is doing his thing. I want to make my own name and go somewhere to become my own person. And you did it. You did the opposite due to, like you just said, you and Arch being that close. But talk about just being the little brother to Arch Manning. Like, you've been in the limelight in the way with your family your whole life, but now that you are both going to the same college and all the publicity that Arch gets, how is it? How do you go about just everyday life when you're just out here trying to be a UT student like the rest of them?
Yeah, that's a great point. And there was definitely some people who sort of questioned my decision when I made the decision to go to Texas. They were kind of like, Heid, like, do you really want to go kind of live in your brother's shadow? But I've never really thought about it like that. I think, especially in New Orleans, like, no one really cared about the whole, like, to people in New Orleans and to all of our friends, like, it was just kind of Arch and Heid, not like Arch and Heid Manning. So that never really affected me when we were in New Orleans. And then I figured, he's going to kind of be doing the whole football thing, and I'm going to have more of the social scene and the kind of the fraternity life. So, yeah, it never really bothered me. I always thought he was a little more jealous of me than I was of him. I think I had to sort of have the personality, but yeah, he definitely has the athleticism on me. But yeah, I've never really been jealous of him, and he's never really been jealous of me. We kind of both had our own things, and we've always appreciated each other for that.
Okay, Heid, your dad mentioned something to me about that. And I thought it was interesting because he said, they lead completely different lives at Texas. But he said Arch is probably more thankful that Heid is there than Heid is thankful that Arch is there. And you're an outlet for Arch. I'll let you tell it, but you kind of provide normalcy. I know you guys get together for lunch and dinners and stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't really talk football, right?
No, yeah, we really don't talk football. And I remember I got in, I think, around December of last year, and I remember calling him, telling him I was going to go to Texas. And he'd say, "Oh, that's so great! Like we can hang out a bunch at night, and like we can hang out and go to dinner." And I'm like, "We can hang out a little bit, but I'm going to be going to fraternity parties and having fun. Like, slow your roll a little bit. I got my own life to live a little bit." But no, yeah, it's been great. I think definitely, yeah, I think he has so many people talking to him about football, and I think he's at the facility, whatever it is, 16 hours a day. So I think he's just, football is such a big part of his life that kind of when we talk, I think he likes the kind of an outlet. Yeah, like you said, it's just he kind of needs a little bit of normalcy in his life.
What's something we don't know about him?
He's very, when he's away and kind of out of the camera, he's a very goofy guy. Like, I didn't really know whether to say it, but like the most of the time we don't really talk about football. We usually just talk about like girls. Usually it's kind of. He's a 20-year-old and I'm a 19-year-old. It's usually, yeah, it's kind of talk about social life and just kind of who we're crushing on these days. Usually that's kind of it.
I dig it. I dig it. No, when you come to Texas, you got to enjoy everything, Heid.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it. You're on the right path. Talk about just growing up and the family legacy. Like, y'all are basically the first family of the NFL, first family of football. Talk about how that was growing up with your uncles, your grandfather, your pops, etc.
Yeah, I think I didn't think I had a great appreciation for it until sort of later in my life, kind of when I turned about 11 or 12. You kind of really, once I started getting really into sports, and you kind of start to appreciate more the history behind it, and kind of like what my grandfather did for New Orleans, and kind of Peyton and Eli's legacy. You definitely start to appreciate it later on in life, and it's pretty cool to just look at all that they did, and kind of, yeah, I think Arch and I definitely had a greater appreciation for that later on.
And you were Arch's center
I was
for Arch's sophomore and junior year, and then you were the left guard.
Yes, sir. Left guard, and then my senior year I was a right tackle. But yeah, we were. I was the center. Yeah, his sophomore and junior year, and it was always funny because he's pretty mild mannered. Like, he never really liked to yell at other players, because I mean, at the end of the day, in high school, I think you can do it more in college, but in high school, you can't really. I mean, you can yell at players to an extent, but at the end of the day, they're the same guy you're carpooling with, and you're kind of more your friends. But he was never afraid to yell at me. I mean, gosh, he'd get on my tail if I had a bad snap. If the snap wasn't perfect spiral in his hands, he'd be ripping me, and the coaches would be like, "Arch, calm down." But I think he liked that he could yell at me, and he didn't yell at anyone else. But I mean, I like the constructive criticism, and if he yelled at me too hard, I'd let the nose guard right through.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of the comedian in the family. I mean, your dad said
I think my dad's definitely the comedian family. I'm definitely the up and coming star.
Okay, so maybe you got a lot of what Cooper has.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think Arch got the athleticism and sort of Peyton's kind of serious tone and his drive, and I definitely got sort of my dad's charisma and sort of the funny parts.
Because that video that went viral, I think those were clothes that Case Stockton sent to you and Arch.
The Highland Park and the Texas shirts. Yes, sir.
And do you have it, Zay? Because Heid delivers the funniest line in that. It just.
Yeah, I remember it sort of resurfaced not too long ago. I think kind of in the last 6 months, and I had a bunch of people send it to me, and everyone's caption was like, "You have not changed since you've been 10 years old. You're the exact same person." Yeah. Okay. I remember I think I said something like, "Thanks, Case, for the shirt. Like, I love it. The ladies are going to be all over me." I was kind of rubbing my chest.
Yeah. Did you have it, Zay?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, here it is. It's only 8 seconds.
Thanks for the t-shirts. They're nice. Ladies are going to be all over me. I want to go to Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I mean, does that kind of personify the personalities right there?
Yes, I think it does. I think, yeah, it's a perfect video to show. Yeah, just us two.
So you were the cut up, and how did that? You were kind of the comic relief for Arch.
Yeah, I think definitely this semester, with sort of kind of him being able to get in for ULM, UTSA, and Mississippi State, and then having to go back on the bench. I think he struggled with that a little. And, I mean, him kind of being like the guy all throughout high school. I mean, he started from freshman year all the way through. So I think him having to kind of be in a QB battle, or not really a battle, but just being the backup, I think that was definitely hard for him. So I think he definitely appreciated when I'd come over and we'd be able to just kind of chop up about other things and kind of take his mind off that. I think he really appreciated it. I think that's sort of the stuff he was looking forward to when I told him I was going to Texas, just kind of, and I think it's going to happen next year too. If, if he has a rough game or we lose one, I think he'll definitely seek me out as just kind of, he get away from the team for a little bit, or like a Sunday, he just kind of wants me to come over and, hang out with him. So I think, yeah, he's definitely looking forward to that. And so am I.
Yeah. Have you seen any change from him since, like, now you know he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the one to take all the snaps basically for this 2025 Texas team. As you just mentioned, was the backup this past year. You see him in a lot of interviews now with Marty Smith at ESPN and Complex and different things like that, the whole Red Bull gig. So things have shifted very quickly. How has he handled that in your opinion, Heid?
Yeah, I think he's handled it well. I mean, I think he's definitely taken time off of kind of all the social media stuff. Like he did the Red Bull deal, and I think he's definitely getting a lot more media attention. I think when we hang out, I remember we went to dinner the other day, and I was like, "Can you order an Uber home?" He's like, "I don't have my phone." Like he leaves his phone in his room half the day, and I think he deleted Instagram and kind of he's just taking his mind off of all that. And yeah, I think I mean, from what I've heard from other people and just talking to him, he seems like his mood's a little bit lighter. But I think when it comes to his preparation, like lifting and all the training and stuff, I think he's training like just kind of the same way he is, like be ready to play. And yeah.
What your parents, obviously great job raising, and your older sister, May?
Yes, sir.
And is she at Virginia or is she done?
She's a senior at Virginia right now.
Okay. Your parents, great job raising you. When it came to football, how did they approach it for you and for Arch?
I think there's always been a motto of kind of just have fun out there, work hard. And I think it's the same thing that my grandfather cemented in my uncles and my dad. It's just, you're there to have fun and, always, if you're going to do something, do it 100%. So I think there's never been any, like people have asked like, oh, is your dad trying to kind of, or your grandfather's whatever, trying to live through y'all? And it's never been like that. I mean, my dad would support me the same way if I wanted to be in the band, if I wanted to be the best trumpeter there was. I mean, they're just so supportive of whatever we do. And I mean, for us, it was just the love for football, and they always supported us through that. But I always find it funny. My mom was always with all the moms of the game, kind of talking, laughing, watching the game. My dad would kind of he would sit away from my parents, just kind of like rubbing his hands, like wincing at every moment. And even when Arch is gone, when I was a senior in high school, he would still do the exact same thing. So he's just like every other dad, just kind of just wishing he was out there.
Yeah. So you and your dad are probably in a similar boat, especially with, Peyton and Eli and those guys going on to do their thing. Now, Arch is doing his thing, playing football. Do you and your dad ever talk about that? Because like you said, you're not in the shadow at all. Y'all both y'all's own men. Y'all both, have y'all's own responsibilities and things going for yourselves. But do you ever talk to him about, okay, how'd you deal with being the brother of Peyton and Eli, kind of just how with Arch and the attention that he gets?
Yeah, definitely. And definitely when I was an adolescent, kind of 12 to 14 years old, when I think my dad sort of saw the trajectory of how it was going between me and Arch. I mean, we're one grade apart, but we're 20 months apart. So we're basically 2 years apart. We were always, if I was in 7th grade, he was in 8th grade, but I'd be 12 and he'd be 14. So he was always, whenever we played pickup basketball, I mean, it always ended in either a fight or one person's crying, and usually he was the one winning. So yeah, I think my dad kind of always had to teach me, like, just kind of keep moving forward, and like, it's not a big deal. You love your brother. He loves for you to succeed, and you love for him to succeed. And he always preached that from a early beginning, even kind of before the whole fame thing. He just kind of said, jealousy is literally, it's one of the worst things that can rip families apart, and you don't want it to get the best of you, and you want to be supportive of him because he loves you and you love him, and a brother is the most special bond you can have.
It's awesome.
Talking to Heid Manning, Texas freshman, younger brother of Arch Manning, and Heid, you played with Arch. How would you describe his leadership style?
He's a very natural leader. I think people sort of look to him, and he's definitely, he was always the hardest worker in the locker room, hardest worker in the gym. He was sort of kind of a quiet lead by example type guy. I'd say I think he definitely sort of mimics Eli in that term. Sort of, you see Peyton is kind of like the sheriff, and like you hear stories about Peyton, whatever, like kicking guys out of the huddle. And I think my brother is a little more mild mannered, but he can definitely get fired up. Like you see him on the sideline and stuff like that. But I think Arch has definitely always been, I'd say, a lead by example guy. Like I remember in high school, like y'all know what huddle is, like
Yeah.
So I remember,
video.
yeah, like in high school, our coach would list, the coaches can see the minutes that the players watch. So he would say, whatever, blah, 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 has watched 27 minutes. Heid, you watched whatever, 30 minutes of film today. And it'd be like, Arch watched 6 hours of film. It's like just kind of, yeah, I think, and he like kind of would put his head down, like everyone's staring at him. He's just kind of a quiet guy, leads by example. And yeah, I think he's always been a great leader, and he's very comfortable being a leader.
Well, what do you make of these expectations? Because Arch is already like BetMGM has him as the favorite to win the Heisman. All the way too early power rankings have Texas like in the top 3, and they just lost 10, significant contributors on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the predictions and the NIL evaluations and all that stuff, I mean, it's all kind of just fluff and everything in the air. And I think my dad always had a pretty good job of, he said, don't ever listen to whatever. I remember the first time Arch and I, when I was the starting center, and him and I like played together, I think Max Preps posted something like, like Archie Manning, younger brother, rising O-line recruit. Like I was not an O-line recruit. I was 5'10", 220 pounds, the center. No one was recruiting me. Like it's all just, I mean, if you don't, the less you listen to all the media, I think the better you are. And I think these days, a lot of people sort of get ahead of that. Like I'm verbally committed to whatever. You can verbally commit to anywhere. I can verbally commit to San Diego State right now. No one's going to fact check it. Like no one can fact check anything. It's all just fluff. And I think the more people start to realize that, I think the better it is, and the more you keep your mind off the media, and the better you are.
Yeah. All right, Heid. Question from Jose here. What's some of you and Arch's favorite places to eat around Austin?
Well, Arch and I went to, I'd say our favorite place to eat is Kava Bob's. Pretty easy. I mean, it's money. And then the other day, someone took us to Perry's Steakhouse. That place is phenomenal. I don't think I've ever had a better steak in my life. And it's a huge spot. It can fit a lot of people. And that place was pretty phenomenal.
Heid, when do you think in the recruiting process that Arch knew it was Texas? I mean, we see that picture of him when he's a young kid wearing the Texas shirt saying, I want to go to Texas. When do you think it hit him and became the place?
I think so. The official visits were early June going into his senior year. And we went, I remember Georgia asked if he could go, if it was Georgia, Bama, Texas. And I guess for some reason, Georgia requested that, or they made their official visit date for him first out of the 3, which I guess because they wanted to make the first, the early impression. I always thought it would have been better if you were kind of the last, the one to wrap it up. So yeah, Georgia was first, and then Bama, and then Texas was last. And I think for him, he asked I remember him asking sort of a lot of questions away from football about it. Like nothing about the dollars or the NIL. He was asking like, am I going to be able to get away in Austin and maybe go somewhere where people don't recognize me as much? And out of Tuscaloosa, Athens, and Austin, it's easily Austin for that. Like, I think you can go to East Austin or South Congress, a little more of those kind of quirky and millennial run neighborhoods. And he's not as, if he's on campus, it's different. You get more people stopping for pictures, but sort of in different areas, he's all just kind of, is there anywhere I can lay low? And he loves his privacy, and he loves not being in the spotlight. So I think that was a big part for him. And I just think seeing Austin, and also a big part of where would I be without football. And I think Austin, like Texas, has great education, and I think he just where would you want to be without football? And it was Texas.
Yeah. How have you seen his relationship with Steve Sarkisian develop over the past 2 years, now going on year 3, where he's about to be the starter? Because that was clearly a big part of his decision to come to Texas. Sark's just brilliant offensive mind, especially with him being a former quarterback. I'm sure that was something that was easily relatable with all the quarterbacks that y'all have in y'all's family.
Yeah, I think him and Sark have a great relationship. I think, when you're a recruit, I think all the coaches are going to tell you, like you're going to be such a great player. Like you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And then once you actually get there, you're a freshman and you're fighting for a spot and the coach is yelling at you. And I think he liked that. I think as a freshman and a sophomore, you're still a backup. And I think Sark got on him. And I think you've seen clips of Sark ripping him and yelling at him. And I think he kind of likes that. He likes someone that can be real with him. And, in high school, you don't always have that. If you're such a highly touted recruit, you kind of only have your coaches telling you, oh, you're great. Like, you're all good. And I think he sort of liked that sense of reality that someone can actually get on him and rip his face off if he needs it. I think he likes that Sark can push him and he's not afraid of him or he likes that he can push him.
How would you describe Arch's ambition in football?
He's just so driven. I think nothing really is going to stop him from getting to where he wants to go. And he has so many goals. And I think he's just so focus oriented. And I think he just has that tunnel vision when it comes to football. And I think just whenever I've never seen him be as passionate about one thing as anyone. It's just he's so passionate about it and he loves it. And I think he's he just has a love for the game that I've never seen.
So I don't know if you shared a bedroom or if you had your own bedroom, but what posters were up in your room and what posters were up in Arch's?
So in my room, I had a big picture of I think it's a famous picture of Farrah Fawcett in like a bikini,
and a red bathing suit.
Yeah, in a bathing suit. And then I had
that up in my room as a kid.
Yeah. you and I think alike, Chip. But and then I had like famous country music singers. I had Muddy Waters and Conway Twitty and a bunch of great country music singers. And then in his room, he had Steph Curry, and then he had the big, the famous, the MJ wings one where he has his wingspan out.
I had that one.
Yeah, that one's tough. And then I remember the coolest one. I always tried to steal it. It was I think it was Len Bias dunking over Jordan when it was UNC and versus Maryland. I think Bias in Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the coolest one. And also, I think I stole this one once, and I think we got in a fight over it. It's Muhammad Ali boxing underwater. Like it's the coolest one I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
I think I stole it once, and I think he took it back. But
so what's May like? What's your older sister like?
May is sort of, I don't know if you know this term. She's like the glue guy. She keeps the family together. It's always great having. Yeah, she doesn't get enough credit for Arch and I's development. Like May was just so helpful for I think our like social skills, like the way like we're able to talk to girls or interact with people. And I think May's just she's the glue guy. She keeps the family together. She's smart, driven. She helps Arch and I with countless things. And she's actually she could be arguably one of the better athletes. She was on varsity volleyball team as an 8th grader, and she was a captain as a sophomore, which is not easy to do. To be a 15-year-old captain and bossing around a bunch of 18-year-olds is pretty impressive. So yeah, she was a stud athlete. She was volleyball state championship MVP as a senior, and yeah, she's a stud.
Were you shocked yesterday that your uncle Eli beat Peyton in the field goal kicking event?
I knew Eli was going to beat Peyton. And Eli and Peyton are 6 years apart, I think, or another 4 or 6 years apart, I think. But yeah, I mean, Peyton's a little like, even you watch the way he plays football, he's a little stiff. Like I could tell Eli is definitely a little more limber in the hips. I knew Eli had it. I didn't tell anyone, but I knew Eli was going to win it.
So how often do y'all see them? Because, your dad was like, I think this gets overcooked a little bit because it's not like they live down the street. I mean, Peyton lives in Denver. Eli lives in New Jersey or whatever. And so is it them usually coming back for Mardi Gras or for Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Yeah, it's usually Mardi Gras and then usually sometime in the summer. And they would come for the Manning Passing Academy in Thibodaux, Louisiana, which is in late July. But yeah, it definitely gets overcooked a little about, I'd say, like Arch's development as a quarterback and a person. Like we really only see them 2 or 3 times a year. I think, like, if you want to credit anyone, definitely credit my dad and then my grandfather. My grandfather lives a few blocks away, and I mean, I see him 5 times a week, or when I was in high school. And I mean, he texts me every single day. He sends me a Bible verse and then a good quote, and then he'll text me, "How you doing?" or "What's up?" So yeah, he's the most connected person. He texts me 100 times a week.
Big Red?
Big Red, yeah.
Is that what everyone calls him?
Yeah, Red, because I think I never knew why, but he had the luscious red locks back in the day. So yeah, that's why everyone calls him Red.
Oh man. Zay, you got one more? I know we got to let Heid get going here.
Yeah, so there was never any like motivation from either Eli, Peyton, your uncle Art, or excuse me, your grandfather Archie, to like go to Ole Miss or Tennessee or any of those schools?
I mean, not really. I think my grandfather never really cared. I knew Eli and Peyton were very laid back about it. I know Arch definitely asked for advice about the whole recruiting process and how to deal with it, and they both gave sound advice. But no, there was definitely no pressure, and I think my dad was very laid back with the whole situation, and yeah, I think they all steered him in just the right direction. No bias involved. So yeah, they were pretty good about that.
Okay.
Well, and one last one real quick, Heid. Your high school coach,
Sure.
Did he play football with Cooper at Isidore Newman?
I think when my dad was a senior, he was a freshman. Sure. And now he's coaching at Westminster in Georgia.
Oh, he's coaching at Westminster now.
Oh, yes, sir. You got a job, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, what was that relationship like with your high school coach, who obviously knew your dad and cared a lot about you guys?
Yeah, he was definitely very close to the family, and he was a great coach. He's the most caring coach. I mean, I don't think you'll ever meet a high school coach quite like him. He's just such a passion for the game, and he loves me and Arch like his own children. And he's a great guy, and he's going to go do great things.
Okay, and how's active life in the fraternity?
It's great, eating at the house, hanging out with all the boys. It's it can't be any better.
I love it.
There you go.
I love it.
What fraternity are you in?
I'm a Fiji.
Okay, cool.
What are you doing? You're not supposed to ask him that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I clearly don't know. What do you mean? He didn't have to say it.
We don't want all the women running over to the,
That's exactly what we want. What do you mean? That's exactly what we want.
Zay and I are on the same page.
Yeah, man. You got it. You got it, man.
Oh, Heid, man. It's great talking to you. And best of luck, continued success, and maybe we do this again.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me on. It was great to meet y'all. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Heid, man.